bit of this boxing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here pushing this old Ford. Trying to go all my trash off actually, but I'm you know what I'm saying, I'm talking a bit of boxing before I you know what I'm saying, before I get too busy today. Hey, Andre, what's good? But yeah, you know, we got this Canelo Plant fight coming up. And a lot of the talk is all about, you know, if Plant has a chance at winning the fight, he got to stay on his stick, move a lot, you know, stay active and not get fatigued. You know what I'm saying? I hope my audio coming through good. I don't typically do videos driving this truck. I know the interior noise in this truck's kind of loud. You know what I'm saying? I rarely drive this truck. I probably drive it about 2 times a month. But like I said, I wanted to come on and get my thoughts out to you guys. You know, that want to, you know, that care to hear it and, you know, want to support the channel or whatever. But like I said, you know, the popular thinking is for Plant to have a chance in the fight, he's gonna have to, you know, rely on movement, not get fatigued late in the fight. You know, rely on his jab and, you know what I'm saying, just try to control range and keep Canelo constantly having to reset. You know, and a lot of people have, you know, Canelo as a guy who doesn't have a shot in hell in this fight. And then you got some people who, you know, think it's a 50-50 fight. You got some people favor Plant. You know, it's a myriad of, you know, perspectives and thoughts on how this fight plays out and who wins this fight. Like I said, y'all excuse me for ducking out of view and trying to drive. So these people drive crazy out here. But like I said, for myself, you know what I'm saying, I can understand why there's a range of thoughts, you know what I'm saying, on the fight. I mean, some people look at Canelo like he has, you know, for lack of a better phrase, God status in the sport of boxing. Like Canelo is just head and shoulders over everyone else, and that nobody has a shot against him. And you know, anytime he's in a fight, it's his fight to win or lose. Like the other guys just there, and that's not the case. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you look at some of the guys Canelo been fighting over the last couple fights, you know what I'm saying, that can be said. You know, if you look at Anthony Yildirim, you look at a guy like Callum Smith, you know, and not necessarily that Callum Smith wasn't a good fighter. I thought a lot of Callum Smith, but honestly, coming into the fight, you know what I'm saying, Callum Smith was one of those guys that, you know, I was kind of high on, but I had questions about whether or not he'd come out there and really fight Canelo tooth and nail and try to go out there and establish dominance to be the big man in the fight. He's standing at, I think he's like 6'3.5". And I didn't really see that when I saw the fight. You know, I didn't get that vibe that he felt like he was the big man in there. It looked like he was trying to do enough to stay in the fight, but not necessarily having the mentality, having the mental that he could and should win the fight. And you know, Billy Joe Saunders, just like he is outside of the ring, clowning, playing, being a buffoon, I think he plays too much in the ring too. And I actually feel like, you know what I'm saying, him being a more serious fighter would have benefited him in that Canelo fight. I felt like he was winning the fight until he got caught, but I felt like he could have fought a better fight. And as far as the Canelo insane power that people talk about, you know, a lot of that is attributed to the stoppage of Billy Joe Saunders. It's like they just all just made him a knockout artist now. And you know, Billy Joe Saunders gets an assist on that knockout. You know, he helped Canelo knock him out. You know, much like Amir Khan, you know, I heard a phrase like Eagle Face, he said, you know, Khan timed himself against Canelo, you know, and I can see that. You know, when I went back and I watched the fight, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what he did. You know, he was so predictable in his rhythm and the pace at which he was throwing his combination and the way he was fighting. And once again, y'all, forgive me for all this background noise, man. I'm in this truck, and like I said, it's loud in here sometimes. But you know, as far as like back to Billy Joe Saunders, you know what I'm saying? Billy Joe Saunders was, you know, fighting a decent fight, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know if he got too comfortable, got too careless, got too reckless, was playing too much. I don't know what it was, but he knocked himself out. He stopped himself in that fight. And it wasn't like he was knocked out, you know what I'm saying? He suffered a facial fracture. So, you know, that happens in boxing. But you know, when it comes to this fight here, I think Plant expect, hey, salute, y'all. Them comments just popping up. So yeah, salute to y'all. But when it comes to Caleb Plant, I think Caleb Plant expects to beat Canelo. You know, I don't think he's playing. I don't think he's trying to psych himself out. I think he genuinely expects to go in there and be the bigger man. I think he thinks he has the better skill set. He thinks he's a better boxer. And, you know what I'm saying? And he thinks that he should win that fight. So yeah, Mark Blake, salute, man. I definitely agree with that comment, because if you look at Billy Joe Saunders around the time the Canelo fight was announced and what he looked like, his physique, Billy Joe Saunders was in you know what I'm saying, he was in pretty bad shape in terms of a fighter, you know what I'm saying. I know y'all probably like looking at me, you know, fat guy like me, like who is he to talk about somebody being out of shape? But I'm not a fighter, you know what I'm saying. I'm in shape to do what I do for a living, you know what I'm saying. And if I showed up in some other kind of condition, you know what I'm saying, folks will look at me like, man, how you gonna do your job today like that? You know, but my point is, for what he does as an occupation, you know what I'm saying, he wasn't in good shape. And you know what I'm saying, and these guys, you know, coming to these fights knowing that they have, you know, a big fight on the horizon, or that they have a fight on the horizon, period, and then they have to, you know, squeeze down, lose all this weight, and I have to question how much of your camp was spent trying to get into physical condition, not, you know what I'm saying, instead of how much time you were able to spend actually getting into boxing shape. So, you know what I'm saying, all that plays a part into it. So that plays a huge part in how the fight went between Canelo and Plant, in my opinion, as well. But like I said, I mean, Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders, excuse me. But I think, you know, one thing about Caleb Plant is every time you see Caleb Plant, he's in shape. You know, Caleb Plant never, you know, just looks like a guy who takes days off and, you know, weeks off out of the gym and just lets himself go. He seems like the type of guy who is always ready for that phone to ring for a fight, unless he has some type of injury. So, you know, for me, I definitely, hey, salute Woo, salute Rod X, Trey X. You know, but for me, you know, I definitely expect, you know, Caleb Plant to be in good condition. You know, I know as a fighter, and he's an active guy on social media, so I know he hears all these rumblings and all this talk about his stamina down the back end, you know, and how he faded badly in the Uskatagi fight, you know, and how, you know, it looked really bad in spots in that fight. And I remember on Marlowe's Corner, Trey called the fight live, and, you know, we were watching the fight, a fight in which I ate crow because I picked Uskatagi to stop Caleb Plant. You know what I'm saying, just watching how he was fading down the back stretch, and, you know, of course, me not wanting to eat crow, I'm hoping Uskatagi can get to him and get the stoppage, but he wasn't able to do it. You know what I'm saying? Caleb Plant still had some gameness and resolve, and had enough of that he had enough of that it, and enough to take one of Gary Russell Jr.'s phrases. He had enough fuck you in his punches to keep Uskatagi from just being able to just jump on him late, even though he was, you know, badly fatigued, in my opinion. So, you know what I'm saying, I just expect Caleb Plant to have worked on a lot of that stuff, but at the same time, Canelo doesn't bring the kind of pressure that Uskatagi brought. And I know a lot of people, and I think I saw it pop up, somebody said sentiment by stoppage, and I respect that. You know, I respect everyone's opinion and perspective. And I've ate a ton of crow, so, you know, I could be totally wrong about this one, but I guess I don't have to get to the end and tell y'all where I'm leaning. You know what I'm saying? I expect Caleb Plant to get the job done. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, I'm right. But at the end of the day, if I'm wrong, I'm just wrong, and I'm gonna eat crow about it. But I definitely I definitely like Caleb Plant's chances in this fight. I think Caleb Plant presents some things that Canelo isn't gonna like dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And I hadn't even, you know, got to the fact that, you know, the guy's a skilled, somewhat slick southpaw, and you know, and that seems to be something none of these fighters want to deal with. And I tell you that Caleb Plant, from what I was hearing the other day, Bill Haney was doing he was on Trill talking about the fight. Somebody asked him about it, and you know what I'm saying, and he said that he's known Caleb Plant a long time. Caleb used to come over to Mayweather's gym, and he said at first Caleb Plant would come over there, he was a guy everybody would want to jump in the ring with, and he would hold his own. And he said Caleb Plant went to, you know what I'm saying, being the guy that he had trouble finding guys that would spar with him over there. And you know, it was under Doghouse rules. Y'all see the video. You know what I'm saying? Doghouse rules is something different. But you know what I'm saying, I've heard that you know, guy, you know what I'm saying, I heard from what he was saying that, you know, Plant, you know, held his own and really was, you know, somebody to contend with over there. And you know, of course it depends on who was over there at the time, you know what I'm saying, but I don't think it was just a bunch of slouches. I think it was some solid guys over there. Caleb Plant was holding his own and, you know, did his thing. So, you know what I'm saying, be back down to 54, huh? He won't go back to 54 now, not with 54 being hot as it is. He might go back to 55, or he might go to 163, or you know what I'm saying, or something like that, or might create 169 and a half, or 170. Hey y'all, hold on for just a minute. I got to go. I got to get this trash out. If y'all can bear with me, you know what I'm saying, just be easy for just a minute. If not, you know what I'm saying, I appreciate y'all stopping in for as long as you did, but I got to get this trash out of here. All right, y'all, I'm back. I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. But yeah, like I said, I don't know exactly where I was at, but like I said, I expect you know, I expect Caleb Plant to present some challenges that are gonna you know, give Canelo a lot of issues. I think for me, and maybe this would be a disaster. It could be like the worst thing Plant could do. But I like Plant to step to Canelo as the bigger man early in the fight and see what happens. You know, see if not step reckless, but step to him behind a jab and see if he can make Canelo back down. You know, I remember, and I know Canelo is no Kelly. I mean, not excuse me, Canelo. I know Plant is no Kelly Pavlik, but I remember when Edison Miranda was stopping just about everything moving. He was like the bully at 160, And they asked Kelly Pavlik how would he beat Edison Miranda if he fought him. And Kelly Pavlik said, I walk him down. You know, I step to him. And everybody thought, you know, he's just saying that there's no way he gonna step to this big puncher. You know what I'm saying? This guy that's hurting everybody he fights, and, you know, got guys ducking him and this, that, and the other. And what? Hey, what's up, Ronald Finger? So and what happened is when Kelly Pavlik fought Edison Miranda in the very next fight, he did exactly what he said. And Edison Miranda was so caught off guard because nobody fights him like that. You know, everybody tries to box him and try to, you know, stay away from his power, and Kelly Pavlik stepped to his power. And Bruce Gold, salute. And you know, Edison didn't have a game plan for that. And I know Canelo is a much more seasoned and a much more well versed or what's the word, versatile fighter than a guy like Edison Miranda, for sure. But my point is, if Canelo doesn't expect that, it may take him a while to adjust, and that may play in the Caleb Plant's favor. Hey, Trey X, I didn't see that Mayer fight, but I saw that Reggie Owen, shout out to him, I saw he had made a video about it this morning saying that it was a good fight. The cards were wide, way in favor of Mayer, and that she got a decision, but the other girl, I think, was the champion, and he felt like he said at first, he said that he felt like she was robbed, but I think he was saying that, you know, maybe Mayer won the fight, but the fact that the scores were wide as they were, it was still a robbery for the champion, because she shouldn't have been in a fight where it was a good, entertaining fight and a score with that wide. You know, maybe that's my interpretation, and if I'm misrepresenting what his intentions were, then, you know what I'm saying, I charge it to my head, not my heart. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna go back and watch that though. I heard it was a classic, not just from him, but you know what I'm saying, I've seen people talk about it on Facebook too. That it was a good fight. I actually thought that fight was tonight. So, you know, goes to show how much I'm keeping up with current events in boxing right now. But I tell you what, I am keeping up with this fight tonight. She deserved to win. Only one judge had it. Well, okay, only one judge had it wide. Cool. Yeah, I think he had said something like 99 and 91 or something. I didn't know it was one judge though. Hey, and y'all forgive me if y'all, you know what I'm saying, you chatting and I'm missing it, because I'm definitely new to this. I'm not really that coordinated to be driving and trying to chat, trying to read chats at the same time. You know what I'm saying? But I guess it takes work to get used to. I'm trying to keep my eyes on the road. I damn sure don't want to have an accident live and then somebody go back and pull that shit and you know what I'm saying, use it against me. But like I said about this Canelo Plant fight, I think a lot of people are overlooking Plant. I even think, to an extent, I hear Canelo making comments, you know, basically kind of indicates that he respects Plant's game and what he brings, but then I listen to some of the stuff he says that make me think that he believes that Plant's in over his head and that he's just that much better than Plant, and that he expects it to be an easy night, and you know what I'm saying. So I don't know. I don't expect it to be an easy night for either guy, to be honest. I expect it to be a tough fight, and I don't expect, if Caleb Plant does get hurt in the fight at any point, I don't expect Caleb Plant to go to his corner and sit on the stool and not come out like what's that boy name, Yildirim, however you say his name, or him to get, you know, hurt and then, you know, say he broke an eye socket and he can't continue or whatever. You know, I know Canelo's talking this, you're going to experience something different, you're going to feel something different and all this, but, you know, that stuff Canelo done heard other people say. You know, that stuff Canelo done heard other people say, that he's different. You know what I'm saying? And he's just different. He's not like these other guys and this, that, and the other and all that. And, man, Canelo got to show me that he can get separation against the top guys. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, from what I've seen, I haven't seen Canelo truly get separation against the top guys. You know what I'm saying? When he fights them. You know what I'm saying? He's always in controversial pick'em type fights when he fights, when he fights against the ceiling. So I don't expect this to be any different, and if it is, then I have to wonder if Caleb Plant really was as good as I thought he was. And I doubt that. You know what I'm saying? I doubt that I'm overrating or overthinking how good Caleb Plant is. I think Caleb Plant really is as good as I think he is. And I don't think Canelo's as good as a lot of other people think he is. You know what I'm saying? I think Canelo's been matched well when he had his toughest fights. I think he's been matched a lot better coming out of those fights. I seen Canelo struggle with Triple G to get past a jab. You know what I'm saying? Triple G wasn't throwing hella combinations. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't showing him hellified angles. He wasn't slick at all. But Canelo had trouble getting his head off that center line just to stay out of the way of a jab. Same thing against Kovalev. Both of those guys happen to be two good jabbers. Both guys orthodox fighters. Caleb Plant is not. And I rate both of those guys' jabs higher than Plant's as well. As far as slick movement and all that, I don't see Plant being as slick as a Lara. I'm not even gonna say Mayweather, because Mayweather, in my opinion, didn't fight Canelo. He wasn't slick in that Canelo fight. Snacks B salute. To me, Mayweather was stood in the pocket versus Canelo more than we had seen him in a lot of fights. Maybe he stood in the pocket more against Cotto, maybe not. But and I'm not saying Caleb Plant is a Mayweather by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just using that to say the guys that gave Canelo trouble, I'm trying to compare what they do well versus what Plant does well. Excuse me. In terms of his footwork and things like that, I think Caleb Plant has really good footwork, and I do think it helps that he's a southpaw. But like I said, I've seen Canelo struggle to get separation against the very best guys he fought, and that statement's not original to me. I've heard that stated multiple times by a lot of guys whose boxing opinions I respect, and by some whose boxing opinions I don't particularly, so I ain't gonna say I don't respect, but I don't really hold at high regard, just because, for a different reason. But anyway, I've heard that stated more than once, and I felt the same way. So I just want to say that, that's not something you're hearing from me that I'm the originator of. It's just an observation, but I have that observation in common with several other people that I know of that I heard stated. But ultimately, my opinion is my opinion, and I'm not really seeking validation for it or anything. But just want to put that out there. I don't want people saying, "Oh, I said that," and he over there saying it on his live. But damn, sorry about that, y'all. I ate some damn bacon this morning, like damn pieces of the shit stuck in my teeth. Anyway, so I know y'all. I know a lot of y'all got a, got y'all's take on it. I'm just, kind of just as a poll, y'all let me know who y'all got in the fight. I know some of y'all have already said who, but like y'all throw a 1 up in there if y'all got Canelo, and throw a 2 up in there if y'all got Plant. I'm just curious, just trying to poll the chat to kind of get a pulse on who y'all think wins the fight. I see Bruce Gold say he got Canelo, Cypher Supreme, Canelo, YSM Sports Media, Plant, Roddick, the champ, 2 times, Canelo, Finkley got Canelo, YSM, what's up, salute to you. Snacks B, Plant, Trey, I know you got Canelo, and I know why, and I definitely understand. Snacks B, Plant, Mark Blade, Plant. I got Plant, but I'm saving room for Crow just in case. And if I had Canelo, I'd save room for Crow too. I think, like I said, I think it's a a great fight, man. I think it's happening at the right time. I think if Plant can't beat Canelo on Saturday, on the night, excuse me, he was never gonna beat Canelo. Because if you look at the times they've talked about the fight in the past, and it kind of fell through, it didn't happen. If you really if you really look back at those times and you say, well, when that was supposed to happen, it didn't happen, and you ask yourself, you know, if at that time had they fought, how the fight would have gone. I think, you know, if anything, Plant has gotten a little bit better, and I'd say that Canelo, he has more wear and tear on him. So I feel like if he was gonna beat him, if he's gonna beat him Saturday. And if he can't beat him Saturday, I don't think he's gonna beat him any of those other times. But you know, we'll see how it goes. You know what I'm saying? I'm not at all, you know what I'm saying, looking at this fight as if either of the guys is damaged goods. He's limping into the fight. Neither of these guys is coming off of a quick turnaround. Neither of these guys is coming off of a bad performance. Neither of these guys is coming off of injury. Neither of these guys is coming down in weight, or, you know, yeah, I don't think there's any kind of rehydration clause in the fight, or at least we haven't been told of any. You know what I'm saying? Anything like that. So when I look at it from that standpoint, you know what I'm saying, I'm just, you know, I just think that, you know what I'm saying, these guys, they're on a level playing field, and we're just going to see. The best man is going to win the fight. You know what I'm saying? The best man is going to win the fight. And if the best man is Canelo, then I got to give it up to him. If the best man's Plant, I got to give it up to him. And I think Plant will have to do it twice. I'm pretty sure there's a, you know what I'm saying, not a rehydration clause. I'm pretty sure there's a rematch clause. So if Caleb Plant should get the job done, then he's gonna have to do it. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna have to do it again. Unless Canelo just, you know, just says, I don't want to do that again. I'm gonna stay away from this guy. I'm better served moving on and blaming it on the weight or whatever the case may be than rematching this guy and you know what I'm saying, and risking losing twice to the same guy. You know, I guess it kind of depends on how the fight goes. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I definitely understand, you know, I definitely could understand Canelo saying, no, this little one-time thing, I ain't getting back in the ring with that guy if he loses. Because I'm definitely, I think he would be definitely shocked that he lost to that guy. Because like I said, I think Canelo expects to win this fight. I don't think Canelo believes Plant has anything for him. But we shall see. Definitely shall see. Hey, y'all, don't judge me. I got some yard work to do. That's what I'm doing later on today. So, anyway. But, back in here. My damn car. So, yeah, like I said, I think we got a hell of a fight on our hands. And I'm definitely looking forward to it. I would, at one point, I kind of wasn't interested in the fight because I was all salty about, you know, some other stuff about Canelo and some of the things he said about other guys and things like that. But I got to the point now that it's like, nah, I'm going to go ahead and, you know what I'm saying, I'm going to go ahead and be, you know, be fair about it, because I said I want undisputed. And, you know what I'm saying, and if you want to see an undisputed fight, you can't get, you know what I'm saying, you can't get, all caught up in who's fighting. You know what I'm saying, the guys that are there that are the champions, that's who Canelo had to fight. You know what I'm saying, you know, Billy Joe Saunders was there with that WBO belt that Zerto held for a while. Zerto was calling out Canelo wasn't interested in fighting the guy. Not saying Zerto would have beat him or anything like that, but it just bothered me that Canelo just ignored the dude, you know what I'm saying, all that time. And you know, instead of giving the guy an opportunity. But Zerto is a Mexican. Canelo said he wouldn't fight any Mexicans, so I kind of, you know what I'm saying, understood from that standpoint that it wasn't gonna happen. But I just thought it was kind of, you know what I'm saying, kind of crazy that Benavidez loses his belt his WBC belt at 168. Canelo immediately wants to fight for it. Billy Joe Saunders picks up Zerto's WBO belt at 168. Zerto moves up to 175. Canelo wants to fight him. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, you got, you know, Callum Smith. I mean, that's the only guy that I looked at that was really like legit. You know what I'm saying? At 168, I give him all the respect because he went through that tournament where he couldn't pick and choose who he fought. He had to fight the guys that were there. And he went into that fight and he got the job done. But then, I mean, he went in that tournament and got the job done all the way up to the end and got the Muhammad Ali trophy. And then you got, you know, Plant, who's been a champion since he beat Uskatagi. So, you know, when you look at it from that standpoint, for me, I mean, you know, if you're really nitpicking, the guy really has only fought two, you know, really established champions at 168. But at the end of the day, like I said, you can only fight the guys that are there. The one thing I really don't like is that Canelo didn't have to fight anybody for that WBC belt. They just threw that belt in for the winner of Canelo versus Callum Smith. And to me, I felt like that was, you know, I felt like that was kind of weak. You know, I felt like in that situation, they should have, you know, they should have had a fight for that vacant belt between Yildirim, since he was the #1 contender, and he was a terrible fighter, but, you know what I'm saying, he was the #1 contender that they wanted to give a shot so bad. They should have had Yildirim fight somebody else who was an established contender at 168, and let those guys fight while Canelo was fighting Callum Smith, instead of Yildirim just waiting on Canelo to pick up the belt and give him a defense, give him a shot. You know, I felt like they should have gave, you know, Yildirim an opportunity to win the belt, which he wouldn't have won more than likely against a solid contender, and he probably would have lost, and then Canelo would have had to beat that guy instead of Yildirim in a defense. That's you know, one of the things I just didn't like about this whole situation with Canelo and how he's moved at 168 pounds on his path to undisputed. I think a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, a lot of people, hey, Ronald Finkley, appreciate that, man. I appreciate you acknowledging that. Glad to shed light on that for you if you didn't know it. But if you're talking to me, but anyway, like I said, you know, in that situation, I just felt like the WBC was just dying to give Canelo their belt, and they all but just handed it to him. You know, basically like, well, you go out there and you win this challenge for this WBA belt, and we're gonna just hand you this WBC belt for showing up. And I mean, I guess the only positive in that is that Callum Smith had a chance to win the belt as well. He just came up short. You know, he just, you know what I'm saying, I don't know what was up with Callum Smith. To me, Callum Smith didn't look like Callum Smith versus Canelo. But, and I'm not saying like he threw the fight or that he wasn't up for the fight. I think sometimes guys struggle on the top floor against the very best guys out there. I think sometimes guys just, yeah, Ronald Finkley, hold on, let me finish this thought. I think sometimes guys just, you know what I'm saying, they just struggle, you know, when they're facing guys that they perceive to be the best. Like some guys can be really good, and when they faced off against, you know, the Bulls, you know what I'm saying, had to line up against Michael Jordan, they tried too hard and they just, you know what I'm saying, they couldn't get their game going. You know what I'm saying, and things like that. And I'm not saying Canelo's and Michael Jordan are boxing. Please don't, you know what I'm saying, don't get that misconstrued. I'm just saying that as a reference, you know. Jordan comes to mind because it's who I grew up, you know what I'm saying, watching and, you know what I'm saying, root for, other than the Hawks, you know what I'm saying. I was always watching, you know, Jordan play. But, you know, the Ronald Finkley's statement about he didn't know about the WBC and the whole belt situation. I know not everybody follows that, so I'll touch on that again. You know, yes, what happened was Benavidez lost the belt on the scale, and then the belt was vacant. DLowe, I don't know why DLowe wasn't in the running for the belt, because DLowe had already beat Yildirim, and I think what's his name, Connor Ben, no, not Connor Ben, Eubank. I think Eubank had beat Yildirim as well. I think he knocked him out in the first or second round or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, somehow Yildirim was considered #1 contender. They felt like it was some type of controversy in the DLowe win, and they felt like he deserved the opportunity at the belt. But for some reason, DLowe wasn't up for the opportunity to try to reclaim the belt. It was just they considered Yildirim the #1 contender, and they wanted him to have a shot. Canelo basically ran to the WBC petitioning to get that belt, and they voted on it. And he wanted to fight Yildirim, and the WBC approved. They took his request into consideration. They voted according to Mauricio, and they approved the request, and they were going to let that fight go ahead. They were going to order that fight. But then Canelo Canelo still wanted his standard purse that he was getting from the Zone under his contract, and the Zone didn't want to pay him that kind of money. Golden Boy didn't want to pay him that kind of money for Yildirim, and that was the whole going to court thing was about. Canelo wanting to get paid the same amount of money regardless of who he fought, and they had a problem with that. They didn't want to pay him that kind of money for such an opponent. So then, after all the court stuff got ironed out, Canelo split with Golden Boy, stayed with the Zone. I don't know, he got the Callum Smith fight. And then after that, the Yildirim fight was guaranteed to be next. WBC threw their belt in as an icing on top of the cake for Callum Smith and Canelo. Canelo won. We all saw that. Then he fought Yildirim, who I think it was like the second round. He just quit on his stool because he just showed up to get a check. And then before the Yildirim fight, Billy Joe Saunders was going back and forth with Andrade, telling Andrade to drop his WBO belt at 160, move up to 168, and fight him for his WBO belt. And Andrade was going to do it. He was talking about doing it. And next thing you know, Canelo swoops in and tells Billy Joe Saunders that he's going to give him that he's going to give him the fight next. So of course, once Canelo tells you that you're his next opponent, you're not going to go ahead and fight Demetrius Andrade and risk losing your belt to Andrade. And then Andrade, I ain't gonna say Andrade gets Canelo fight, Andrade gets in the way of undisputed. So I think, just my opinion, I think Canelo saw Demetrius Andrade talking about getting his way at 168, and he decided that let me go ahead and let Billy Joe know that he's next, so that he don't fight Andrade and Andrade mess around and win that belt. Then I gotta have a conversation about fighting Demetrius Andrade again. So that's how that whole situation went down. And then once that happened, then Andrade went back to trying to get a fight with Jaime Munguia, who was his mandatory, and Jaime didn't want it, so Andrade ended up fighting the Williams kid, Liam Williams. So, and then like I said, Canelo beat Yildirim, and then we saw what happened when he fought Billy Joe Saunders. But yeah, that's kind of in a synopsis of what I don't like about Canelo's whole journey at 168 pounds. You know what I'm saying? I just felt like it was too much stuff just laid out in his favor. You know what I'm saying? To make Canelo be successful. Callum Smith got his arm beaten up in that fight. He was Trey, yeah, absolutely. He got his arm disfigured. I'm still in it tonight. Crawford Porter ready. Good vibes. Oh wow, yeah. All right. Going for Plant. Yeah, I'm just trying to catch some of the comments since I'm parked. Bruce Gold says, a lot of passionate opinions about this fight. I can't wait. I need a diversion this afternoon, gas. All right. I'm still in it tonight. Crawford Porter ready. Yeah, I can't wait for the Porter Crawford fight, y'all. I've been trying to plug that fight a little bit, you know what I'm saying, as far as kind of help, you know what I'm saying, get people interested in it. I know people are interested on their own. I'm just trying to do my part, man. It ain't just for the Porter Crawford fight. I try to do my little part that I can for the sport of boxing, man. I feel like, at times boxing needs an injection. Boxing can't get out its own way sometimes. I talked to Marlo last night, and we were talking about, that, sometimes it seems like the promoters and managers and networks, it's like they have no idea what the fans really want. And it's like they go out of their way worried about trying to protect these O's for these fighters and trying to match guys up favorably and things like that. When in reality, most of us fans could care less if a guy goes out there and loses. You know what I'm saying? Like the guys that, we support or we support the sport and we like to see good fights. Man, a guy go out there and lose and you match him up good next time, we're going to be right back in there to watch him and support him. We're going to be right back in there to support the card, support the event. You know, I remember Arturo Gatti taking ugly losses, but I always thought the dude was an exciting fighter. I always came back to watching. A guy like Randall Bailey, I like watching Randall Bailey fight. He had a lot of losses. You know what I'm saying? Let me think. Michael Katsidis. You know what I'm saying? He was a guy out of Australia, very fan-friendly fighter. Took some ugly losses. You know what I'm saying? But I can't remember a Michael Katsidis fight that was boring. And I can tell you that as a fan, I could care less how many losses the man had. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, I think some of his losses built his star power. You know what I'm saying? I think just the fights that he put up in those losses. So I think a lot of guys, maybe these fighters also feel that way. But I think a lot of times the people in boxing who are controlling everything, they have this idea or this false perception that, you know what I'm saying, we care more about guys being undefeated than we care about. Hold on a second, my son coming up here with no shirt on, cold as it is out here. Hey man.
Yeah.
You going to work?
No, he texted me.
I'm on a live stream, so don't say that crazy.
All right, yeah, he texted me and said that they had enough people.
So you don't have to work. All right. Well, I'll be in there in a minute. Let me finish this up. I don't want to.
You still got to run the trash?
I just took the trash. All right, man. I'll see you in a little bit. Yeah. All right, y'all. I'm back. So yeah, like I said, you know, I like boxing, man. I like boxing more than I like a guy's record. You know what I'm saying? I don't get so caught up in, you know, who's undefeated or who has X amount of knockouts and, you know, or who's been knocked out and not before, stuff like that, man. I just try to support the sport, man. I mean, there's a lot of foolery in boxing that I can do without for sure. But as far as the sport itself, man, I'm a fan of the sport, you know, more so than I am any of these fighters. Like I say all the time, man, these fighters come and go. Some of my favorite fighters that I grew up watching, they're not fighting anymore. Some of them aren't even, you know what I'm saying? Some of them aren't here anymore, period. You know what I'm saying? But the sport of boxing's still here. I'm still a fan. I'm still gonna support the sport. And I'm a boxing fan over a boxer fan any day. And you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I got certain fighters I support, but I'll be honest, a lot of times the fighters that y'all see me riding hard for, I ride hard for them sometimes more so because I feel like other people are on them so hard that they need somebody trying to level the playing field for them. You know what I'm saying? They need somebody to kind of see it from a different perspective and say, you know, hey man, you know what I'm saying? Look at this, what the guy done. You look at that, what he done. Or maybe, you know, yeah, I know the guy seems like a weirdo at times or whatever, but the dude can fight. You know what I'm saying? Like take for instance, Demetrius Andrade. I think a lot of people on that guy, you know, a lot of people don't care if Demetrius Andrade gets opportunities because he's just rubbed them the wrong way over the years. So it's like for them, they can sit back and look at him get passed over opportunities, and people make up all kind of lame excuses for him not getting fights. And a lot of them could care less if he gets fights or not because they just typically, you know, they don't particularly care for the guy, you know, outside of the ring. So they let that carry over to him as an athlete, that they don't want to see the athlete get opportunities to find out where he actually stacks up on the top level. Whereas for me, I know what I think, but at the same time, I want to see it in the ring. I want to see Demetrius Andrade get opportunities against these guys, and let's see where the chips fall. Because ultimately, you know what I'm saying, he got to get in the ring and fight. The people's perception of him isn't getting in the ring. He's getting in the ring. And the same thing about his opponent. So I like to see the guy get some opportunity. Let's see where he stacks up, you know what I'm saying, versus the best guys he can get in there with. And you know what I'm saying, and you know, if he goes out there and loses, I'm not even gonna be one of those people that comes out and say they aged him out, because he's not talking like he thinks he's lost it, he slipped. He's talking as if he thinks that he still can beat the best out there, you know. So I want to see guys like Demetrius Andrade get opportunities. I'm tired of people coming on here echoing what these ducking fighters say, you know what I'm saying, when guys don't want to fight each other. And just, you know, going along with what these fighters say when honestly, to me, I feel like they should be pushing these fighters to take these fights, not backing them up when they make excuses for why they don't want to fight certain guys. especially when you're talking about two established champions, or you talk about guys who have, you're not talking about guys on the way up. You're talking about guys who have been champions for years. You're talking about guys who have already, established themselves in the sport, and who it should be easy for them to get fights. When you get to a certain level, you should be the hunted. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't still be the hunter. And Demetrius Andrade is one of those guys that, to me, at this point in his career, guys should be hunting Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Andrade shouldn't have to call out anybody. He should be getting called out. And for some reason, that's not happening. And even when he calls guys out, even guys that are his mandatory, they're looking the other way. You got other champions, they're looking the other way. So that's, to me, that's just, that's something I don't like about the sport of boxing. But I'm gonna get off that, because this wasn't intended to be about Andrade. Especially when, the guy who's probably one of his worst critics in boxing is getting ready to fight this weekend. But then at the same time, he's fighting a guy that's probably one of Demetrius Andrade's best supporters. You know what I'm saying? Caleb Plant feels the complete opposite about Demetrius Andrade as Canelo does. So just throwing that out there. But like I said about Plant, I think Caleb Plant's gonna show up. He's gonna give it his all, and we're gonna see how it all pans out. Try to see this chat again, man. I see my numbers dropping, so I don't know if y'all starting to file on out. I'm gonna go ahead and end the live. I'm trying to see messages. I don't really see anything. Nobody ain't saying anything for a few minutes. On the way to shop, listening in now. Appreciate already. All right, Ronald Finkley, man, enjoy your shopping, man. I appreciate you stopping by. Bruce goes, okay, let me go back. So there are some comments that I'm not seeing. Oh, top of the morning. Okay, y'all shouting each other out. All right, DLowe, which card did you watch last weekend? The ESPN card was worth it. Hey, I don't know Ronald Finkley's still in here, but I'll share this with y'all. Last weekend, I had some stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? I didn't watch any boxing last weekend. Not Saturday, live. I didn't watch. I didn't watch a bit of boxing. Last weekend. Not last weekend. Last Saturday. I actually went back and watched the Boots fight and the Jamal James fight Sunday. But as far as Saturday live, I didn't watch a single fight. I didn't catch Marlo and Trey X live. I ended up going back listening to their live stream Saturday morning. I didn't catch any boxing, man, which is rare for me. I usually watch boxing anytime it's on the weekend. But Trey X, I'm gonna scoot down for a minute. I just saw you say you listening, but you're cooking. Hey, much respect to you on that, man. You know what I'm saying? It's always a good thing when you're cooking your own meals instead of going to these establishments, letting them feed you all kind of junk. And you know what I'm saying? Man, you need to chop up, man. We supposed to be having a conversation about some health stuff. You know what I'm saying? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago on y'all's channel. So you definitely I'm definitely gonna hit you behind the scenes, man. And we got to get that conversation going. You know what I'm saying? Because I definitely got to make some changes, some lifestyle changes. You know what I'm saying, in terms of how I take care of my body. Hell, I'm 41 years old. You know what I'm saying? It's past time. Marquez putting them bees on cats. yeah. I was talking about that last night with Marlo. I said, man, I think Marquez stopped Catsidas. I couldn't remember. But I said, I think Marquez and Catsidas had a fight. Catsidas was, he was doing what he do. But Marquez just showed him that, man, there's levels to this. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's different in here with me. Yeah, Catsidas was, he was an action fighter. I like watching that dude fight, man. I used to be up all time in the morning watching them Australian cards when they put him on over there. You know what I'm saying? And, you know what I'm saying? I definitely like tuning in and watching. Ronald Finkley said, realist talk. Hey, I appreciate that, Ronald Finkley. Them is boxing gyms you kicking now. I appreciate it. I don't know what I said, man, but I take it that you enjoying the conversation, man. I appreciate that. The other side of the coin is Blair Cobb versus Jaron Ennis. Now that is suicidal. I don't know, man. I don't know. I've only seen Blair Cobb fight a couple times. I don't know how he matches up against Jerron Ennis. But I will say I've been fooled before when I look at a guy who's just running through everything and fighting a guy that I felt like fought a style that all he could do was be able to try to keep the guy off him, but eventually we're gonna get run over. And I'll give you an example of that. And I know they're on a higher level in terms of progression in their careers than these two guys. But I'll give you a few examples, and I'll give you the one guy they were fighting. I thought Devin Alexander, the way he fought, I thought his style was too defensive. He was too reactionary in how he punched. Too much of his, offense was in reaction to what the other person was doing. So I felt like when he got opportunities to fight guys that were like come forward punchers, like Maidana, guys like Matisse, those type guys, I didn't think he would be able to keep him off of him and he'd get stopped. But what happened when he fought those guys was Alexander actually beat, I don't remember the order, and I've spoke about this before, but Alexander beat Matisse, Maidana, and Randall Bailey all in back-to-back fights. Like I said, I don't have the order, together, but he beat all of those guys. And if you'd have asked me before he fought him how I think he fared, I probably would have. I know Bailey would have been a stretch just because of where he was at that point, but I probably would have, just being honest, I probably would have picked every last one of those guys to stop him. If you'd have asked me, just threw it out there and say, hey, how do you think Devin Alexander would do against these three guys? I'd have said all three of them stop him. So, you just never know. And I know Boots' athleticism is off the charts compared to those guys for sure. Hey, Tadisha Zanuai, or however you say that. Hey, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the channel. I hope you subscribe if you like the content. First time seeing you. Appreciate you stopping by. But yeah, so I don't know, man. Blair Cobbs, in my opinion, I don't think he's as good as Gary Russell's brother, Gary Antoine. But I look at Gary Antoine's fights against Boots, and I know that was in the amateurs. But when you go back and look at those fights, it didn't look like it really didn't have the tenor of an amateur fight. It wasn't like these guys, they didn't look like they were fighting to outpoint each other. They looked like they were trying to beat each other almost as if it was a pro fight. You know what I'm saying? I know they're trying to beat each other regardless, but I hope y'all understand my point. That I think the way those fights went at that time, and I know guys progress and get better, but I look at the way Gary Antoine held his own and at times took over spots of the fight against Boots and had Boots in there looking like he didn't know what to do. I have to wonder, if a certain guy, if presented with certain things against certain guys, does Boots look as spectacular as he has against the guys he's fought so far? I like Boots, and I know if you go back and look at some of my videos, I know, some people may think I really don't like him and that I don't, that I'm not, don't want to see him succeed. When in actuality, I'm very high on him, and I do think he really is the goods. But I don't see a perfect fighter like some people act like they see. I see a guy who his offense is so explosive that people don't pay attention to the things he's doing wrong. Or the openings that he gives. And proof positive of that, if you look at the DeLorme fight, he left himself wide open after he hurt DeLorme, and DeLorme landed a punch that, through his guard that was like a perfectly landed punch that if it was a fighter who had more power and threw the punch with more steam on it and wasn't already hurt, you have to wonder how that would have went. But the thing about it is, it happened when it happened in the fight. Boots can go back and look at video of that, and they should show that up. And that's the good thing about moving up. That's the good thing about as you progress as a fighter. You can see the things that don't go so well in fights, even in a win, and you can clean those things up going forward for the next fight. And I think it's good that happened to him in the fight versus DeLorme, because he wasn't in jeopardy of losing that fight at that point. He just had to land a couple more punches and get out of there. But it's something they could go back and build on, because in fights, and you're looking at film, it's not just about what went wrong when I lost. sometimes it's about what I done right when I lost that I need to work on, but also what I done right, you know, what I done wrong in a win, or what do I need to clean up even in a win, so that in fights going forward, you can improve as a fighter and be that much better against the next guy. So I'm glad he got hit with that shot, and I hope that he and his team realize that that's something that they need to shore up. But yeah, so like I said, but back to my original point, I just don't know. I can't just go out there and just jump out there and say that Blair Cobbs is gonna get run over by Boots. You know, I haven't seen enough of him to say that. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen enough of him. I can't. I don't typically. I'm not the type of guy that looks at a guy because I'm high on him, and I've seen what he's done to other people, that I just expect that he's gonna do that against everybody, and I don't look at the other guy and kind of break him down and see how I think they match up. Like I said, I had to look at more Cobb, and honestly, I won't take the time to do it unless the fight's starting to look like it's gonna be a reality. I saw Cameron Duncan talking on he was on Barbershop Conversations. Shout out to Fred, and he was talking about Boots wants to fight every month, and that's not realistic, but he's trying to find, you know, get guys in there. He said there are guys that want to fight Boots. He said that. He said there's always guys that want to fight. He said it's just making the right fights that make sense, and he said he's built Boots up to this point, and he's going to continue to build him up the right way. And he's not even saying he wants Boots in there with the top guys right now. And he's saying that, you know, there's a few more fights he wants to get him in, and then, you know what I'm saying, he wants to really start pushing for, you know, the top guys. And you know, and we don't know who the top guys will be at that time. But, you know, Boots is he's a phenom. You know, he's the goods. I definitely have a lot of respect for what he brings in the ring. I like his attitude outside of the ring. I like the fact that he's calling out the top guys, because if you don't let it be known that you want these guys, you know what I'm saying, then nobody, you know, nobody's gonna pay any attention to an extent. You know, it's like you got to say, hey, I do want to fight these guys, whether it happens today, tomorrow, next week, a year from now. I'm letting it be known that I want these fights, and I think that's a good thing. I think these young guys have to do that. Like I said, I respect Blair Cobbs calling Boots out the way he did. I respect Gary Antoine saying that if Boots wants it, he'll fight him. You know what I'm saying? He said that last week, you know, or this week or whatever. So, you know, I respect these guys saying that, because like I said, you know, in a previous video, and I didn't really like clear it up. I kind of misstated it, you know, in a way I made it sound, you know, kind of worse than what it was. But when Virgil Ortiz was asked at one point about fighting Boots Ennis, I think it was within the last year, and he talked about, you know, he don't want that right now. That fight doesn't make sense. That's a fight they can have, you know, 4 years down the line or so, like that. And I don't really like that type of talk, you know. And I think in my video I said that he didn't want to fight, and I didn't mean it like, you know, I think I said he didn't want any part of it or whatever. But in reality, what I should have said was, and I think I tried to clean up in the comment section, is that he want to fight. You know, he didn't want it right now. But I don't understand why not right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, these guys should want to fight everybody. You know what I'm saying? You know, so if you're on the way up, you should be wanting all the smoking. And what better way to put yourself in position than to eliminate your contemporaries, eliminate the guys who are viewed as being on your level. You know, eliminate the other guys that people look at and say, hey, these are the top 2 prospects. Well, let's go ahead and show who's number 1 out of these top 2 prospects. You know, that's, to me, or top 2 young contenders. You know, that's the way I look at it. Like, you know, so I understand wanting to wait and we can fight later, but at the same time, these guys are, you know what I'm saying, these guys are, you know what I'm saying, already further along in terms of number of fights than, you know what I'm saying, just say Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard, who fought when they were like, not looking at it, but just off the top of my head, I think they were like 22 and 24 or something like that. Or if you look at Sugar Ray Leonard and El Radar, when they fought, you know what I'm saying, they were even younger, if I'm not mistaken. So to me, I want to see these young guys mix it up. There's no law that says they can't fight again down the line. You know what I'm saying? Really, if you're the goods and you just lose to a better guy, you know what I'm saying, that don't mean that you don't later get the opportunity to become a champion. Look at Roy Jones Jr. and Bernard Hopkins. Roy Jones Jr. dominated Bernard Hopkins in their fight. But look at what happened to their careers later on. Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins both are considered two of the greatest fighters, you know what I'm saying, of a generation. You know what I'm saying? And some people say in history, you know, Bernard Hopkins considered one of the best middleweights to ever live by some. You know, Roy Jones Jr. is considered one of the best fighters to ever live by some. So, you know, you gotta look at it from that standpoint. And quite honestly, Bernard Hopkins, if you look at where he was at that point in his career, he wasn't no Jaron Ennis or no Virgil Ortiz in terms of, you know what I'm saying, being this, you know, blue chipper and, you know, just look, you know, the guy was getting out of, not long got out of prison, you know? So I just look at it like, when you look at it from that vantage point, I want to see these young guys fight. Like, I want to see these young guys at 135 mixing it up, at 130. You know what I'm saying? All of these divisions where we got a crop of young up and coming fighters. I don't want to see these guys staying away from each other, choosing their own paths. I want them choosing their own paths, but at the same time, know that they're on each other's paths. They're in each other's way. Let's not be buddies, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to making these fights. We can be friends all we want, and, you know, outside of that. But if you're in the rankings and I'm in the rankings and we got the same goal, we can't get around each other to get there. We got to go through each other. One of us is gonna make it, and one of us won't. And that, you know what I'm saying, and then the other one goes back to the drawing board. And if he really is as good as he's supposed to be, then he's still gonna get to where he wants to get to. And that's just what it is. So to me, I definitely am all for these youngsters mixing it up. And I don't like to hear them talking about, I don't want to fight you right now. I don't like to hear them talking about, no, I'm trying to fight bigger and better guys. There's levels of this. I'm not going to fight, you know, like, hey, even like with Blair Cobbs, you know what I'm saying? If Boots don't have anybody else to fight at the time, and Blair Cobbs is raising his hand saying he wants to be a Huckleberry, and you think that your level, you're telling him his levels of this, and you think your level's above him, the best way to show him and us is give him the opportunity, get in the ring and squash him. Get in the ring and show us that there's a gulf of separation between yourself and Blair Cobb. You know, that's the way I look at it. And get back to this chat. MZ Talk Boxing, what's up, fam? Joseph Brown, what's up, fam? Salute. All right. Trey X. All right, let me see. Yeah, okay. I never knew my name can sound like that. Wow, I butchered your name. I'm so sorry. I've never seen a name. I've never seen a name like yours. Sorry, I've never tried to say it out loud, especially on the spot. So sorry about that if I butchered your name. It sounds like I did. No disrespect. I'm all about getting people's names right. You know what I'm saying? I definitely think that's important to say a person's name right, remember people's names, stuff like that. I took Thomas Matisse on the Champ Ross and ate crow. Ohio fighters hate to let their hands go. Oh boy, I know somebody who would have a lot to say about you talking about an Ohio fighter. I can say I watched a few Blair Cobbs fights, and in comparison to Ennis, but I understand what you mean because I don't know enough about Vargas versus Zepeda. Didn't know enough about Vargas and Zepeda and felt dumb. Yeah, I picked Zepeda in that fight by stoppage. I had saw enough in Zepeda and Vargas to feel like Vargas would have to earn Zepeda's respect, and I've seen enough from Zepeda to know that that's a hard thing to do, because the guy done, you know what I'm saying, the guy done been hit with bricks and get back up, you know what I'm saying? When, you know, but you know, honestly, when I think about the Lundy, I think it was Lundy, I feel like Lundy beat Zepeda. I think I'm thinking about the right fight. I think it was Lundy that fought Zepeda. But either way, good point. It's definitely a glitch in his forward attack because Boots looks like he gets hit straight up the middle. Yeah, there's quite a few things about Boots that I see that I have an issue with, you know what I'm saying, defensively, but I'm not gonna get into all that because, like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm being overly critical. And I think his team is gonna show a lot of that stuff up as he continues to move up. Get your popcorn and crow for the night. All right. Joseph Brown saying salute. Yeah, I don't know how to make these comments pop up. I'm just reading them. MZ got crow tenders tonight. That was Trey telling MZ, I'm at work, getting in trouble, listen to the voice of reason, keep cooking. Hey, salute MZ. Be easy, man. I know how it is to be sneaking at work. Yeah, you can always catch a replay. It ain't worth, I ain't talking about nothing worth getting in trouble about. I promise you that. Joseph Brown, salute, bro. Oh, it's Trey X. Joseph Brown. Sorry, y'all. Get out y'all business. Ennis needs to avoid those overhand rights. Rod X, you right on it. Like I said, I see some of this stuff, but I don't want to talk. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to seem like I'm, you know what I'm saying, I'm just being overly critical of the guy. 2022 140 weight class and 168 should be the hottest divisions. Yeah, could be. And 147. Yeah, 147 is always hot. It's have a down period every once in a while. It's typically hot. Peace and blessings. You know, MZ telling everybody peace and blessings. Oh, Ronald Finkley said, yeah, I was correct. It was Lundy versus Zapata. Yeah, I thought so, man. Like, when you watch so many fights, man, sometimes this stuff starts to run together. I picked Vargas over Zapata and still pieced y'all up. Yeah, Trey, you did your thing on Champ Ross, man. 2 weeks in a row. You got me looking up at you. I'm looking up at you trying to get there. Prediction, fight, picking, starting soon. Okay. Yeah. Do your thing on that, Ronald Finkley. But yeah, yeah, man, like I said, I definitely, I like to support the young fighters because I feel like, you know what I'm saying, I done seen a lot of young fighters. Yeah, y'all hit the like button for me, please. I done seen a lot of young fighters, you know what I'm saying, come up and look really promising, and then they just fizzle out. Like not get beat and you know what I'm saying, and the progression get halted. It's like a lot of guys just fizzled out, man, where they were fighting pretty frequently, looking like they were on the way, and then next thing you know, they start fighting infrequently, and then next thing you know, they don't have a fight for 2 or 3 years, and then they have a comeback fight, and it don't go very well, and then you don't see them again. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I really try to get behind these young fighters and let them know that, you know what I'm saying, and try to support them, man, because they need to know that as fans, we're not just looking at the very top guys. We're looking at you guys too. And we're looking at you to be the future of boxing. Because like I said, these guys are going to be gone one day. The sport of boxing is still going to be here. And if you guys are still here, you are the sport of boxing. And that's what I say when I talk about, you know, sometimes I feel like these fighters, you know, they crap on their own product. Not just talking about their own fights and themselves and their opponents, but when they talk about other guys they don't want to fight, and they talk about other guys' fighters, the other guys' opponents, and they talk about other fights in a negative way, I always say that, you know, you guys are the sum of boxing, you know, as the fighters. So when you're crapping on boxing as a whole, or when you're crapping on each other, you're crapping on the sport, and you're basically telling us as fans that boxing ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what I try to, you know, try to convey sometimes in my my videos. You know, when I'm talking about, you know, different things about the state of boxing, is that I try to reiterate that, you know what I'm saying, these fighters got to realize that collectively they are boxing, and that they have to do a better job as being, even though they're fighters, they have to do a better job as being an ambassador for the brand of boxing, because as a sport, boxing is lacking. Boxing is way behind. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons for that, but the one thing that the fighters can do about it is do a better job, you know, pushing and championing for the sport, and more so be about moving the sport forward instead of just all about themselves and all about, you know, what kind of car they went and bought, and what kind of purse they gonna wear today, and, you know, what kind of earrings they getting made, or what kind of cufflinks, or, you know, what kind of Cuban they done went and bought, and all this, and do more of moving the sport forward by supporting the up and coming fighters behind them in terms of like the amateurs, you know what I'm saying, and just being there, you know what I'm saying, because it's, to me, it's like on one hand watches the other type thing. I'm not saying they need to be cheerleaders for their opposition, but I'm just saying, I remember watching boxing in the 90s when you'd have a guy that's a rival of a fighter. He's doing the commentary. You know what I'm saying? He's doing the color commentary for a guy that he potentially could be fighting in a couple fights. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen today, but it doesn't happen as frequently. And I think that you know, like I'll give an example of it happening in recent times was when Deontay Wilder went over to the UK, and he called the Joshua versus Klitschko fight, in which he had interest in fighting the winner. But at the same time, him going over there calling the fight brought more eyes on the fight from America, in my opinion. You know, and I think that was a good thing in terms of moving the needle for the sport of boxing. And I'm not saying he's alone in that. I think Sean Porter doing commentary is good in terms of putting more eyes on and exposure on the fighters and getting it from a current fighter's perspective, a guy that's still active. I think that's a good thing. But like I said, ultimately, I just like for the fighters to do more about moving the sport of boxing forward, because at the end of the day, most of these guys are, whatever their financial status is and whatever their public or social status is in terms of notoriety, is from the sport. So it's almost you can't just take from something and not give something back. If everybody just takes from anything, I don't care what it is, and there's not enough going back into it, that thing starts to dwindle. So I look at it like your money in the bank. If you're constantly just taking your money out, but you're never putting anything back in, it's all about depreciation, no appreciation, then at the end of it, you know what I'm saying, at some point you're going to get to where you have, you know what I'm saying, very little. I remember, I'll just say this as a fun fact, you know, kind of a personal thing, but I'll share this with y'all. I was pretty young. I was like 20, my early 20s. I had an amount of money that I thought was enough money for me to probably sit on my behind if I wanted to for about 3 years, if I didn't want to do nothing. And I was dumbfounded at how fast I was right back in a situation where I had to get on my grind, because I was constantly breaking off this, breaking off that, doing for this person, doing for that person, doing for self. This would come up, that would come up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, all I got is this. I better get busy doing something to make money. So I look at that from that personal experience, and I equate that to now I'm 40 something years old, and I think about when I'm doing things, I think about what's coming behind that, or what happens if all I do is take and I'm not putting anything back in. So even like in my relationship with people, I try to make sure that I'm giving as much as I'm getting from that person. You know what I'm saying? You know, whether that's somebody who I could call when I'm having a rough day at work and be like, man, you won't believe what happened at work, blah, blah, blah. And they're their ear. I want to make sure that when they need to talk to me about something they're going through, that I'm there for them as well. And that's just you know, like I said, a balance for me, the way I look at things and how I've let that translate as I've gotten older in life. So when I look at the sport of boxing, I think these fighters definitely need to give more to the sport of boxing than a lot of them do. Like I said, it's a balance. You can't just take. And it ain't just the fighters. Let me make sure I don't leave that out. I mean, when I say the fighters, I'm also thinking about the promoters, the managers, the networks. I mean everybody, not just the fighters. I mean all the stakeholders in the sport of boxing. They need to think about, you know what I'm saying, they need to think about what giving back to the sport to keep the sport alive and keep it growing and flourishing, instead of just thinking about what they could take from the sport, what they could take from the fans. All right, trying to get back to this chat. All right, Joseph Brown, yeah, reminding y'all to hit that like button for me. MZ say he giving Trey X Crow first. So MZ, you got Plant now. And I ain't saying that you change your pick. I can't remember. So I guess you got Plant. I had polled everybody earlier. Canelo was in the chat with the people that were in here earlier. I think it was like 5 people had Canelo and like 3 people had Plant or something like that. I can't remember, but I was one that had Plant. Dang it, I'm trying to read this chat. It keeps going away. Ronald Feakley said exactly to something. MZ talk boxing. Okay, that's Trey is talking to MZ. Ronald Finkley said boxing over everything. Respect goes a long way. Depends on how you throw them paws. Judgment can be great in a loss also. Yeah. Yep. All right. Curious to see Brandon Adams fight soon. His Jamal Charlo loss, he bounced back, spectacular KO. But where he go? Yeah. And I think Brandon Adams went back down. I might be wrong. Seems like I remember Brandon Adams went back down. So I think Brandon Adams was actually a 54 pounder. I think he went back down to 54 when after he fought Jamal and got stoppage. But I might be wrong. But yeah, I actually not long ago I was actually wondering where Brandon Adams was. And I think I checked BoxRec and didn't see anything on the horizon for him. I've been with Plant from the day they said the fight was okay, MZ. Yeah, man, and my bad, man. I ain't trying to, I wasn't trying to say it like you switched your pick. I just couldn't remember. I know, you know how it is when we have these live streams, you know what I'm saying? Even on your channel the other day, you know, we all, even the ones of us saying Plant, we all, you know, we know that it's a possibility it could go wrong from Plant. So depending on what part of me hearing you talk, I might have been thinking that you were saying that you thought you and Canelo were going to win. Because I mean, even in parts of this video, this live stream, if you go back and you just catch a snippet of what I say about the fight, if somebody went back and just clipped one part of what I said about this fight, you could make it seem like I was saying that Plant's gonna lose the fight. So you know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's like when you're prefacing what you're saying, and you know, almost like some people say you're hedging your pick, but it's definitely not that. I'm just realistic. You know, when I make a pick, I'm realistic about. I feel like when you're breaking a fight down analytically, that if you're looking at everything, you're looking at what could go wrong for the fighter you're picking as well. You're not just looking at what could go well. So when doing it that way, I'm gonna turn this truck off. I'm tired of hearing this noise. Hopefully it doesn't get too cold in here. But yeah, when you're talking about, you know what I'm saying, when you're talking about these fights and you're talking about, you know, how it could play out, you always, you know, to me, I think you always have to take into consideration what could go wrong, especially if you're a bettor. You know, if you're betting on a fight, you got to think about how it could go terribly wrong for the guy you're betting for. And then think about that in terms of, okay, if you're going to place a bet, and what's the likelihood of this happening versus that happening, and so forth and so on, that'll determine how you choose to wager your money or whether or not you choose to wager your money at all. That's the way I look at it. All right, let me see. Yes, indeed. No doubt Adams at 54. They got Danny Garcia at 54. Allegedly, PC could make a good statement with that one. Oh, Brandon Adams versus I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a good test the water fight for Garcia and a fight that he could actually lose, which is what I want to see him, man. I don't want to see if Danny Garcia is gonna move to 154. I don't want to see him fighting some guy that's been stopped by everybody else at 154. You know, I want to see him fight a guy that, you know what I'm saying, that is a legitimate threat at 154 that, you know, may not be the top shelf, but a guy that, you know what I'm saying, has some respectability, may not be in the mix with the top guys, but he's a guy that could, you know, you could see beating him, but you could also see DSG beating him. You know, I like at 154, I like watching Lubin fight more than anybody. And I think maybe part of that over the years has gotten to be because I like Lubin's vulnerability, but I also like the fact that Lubin has some dog in him. You know what I'm saying? He has some legit skills. But I also know that, you know, Lubin is, you know what I'm saying, he could easily lose against the top guys. But I think that he's good enough that he can hang with them as well. You know, I know when you go back and look at this Mel Charlo fight, you know, it's hard to draw that conclusion, but I also look at how that fight played out. It was a situation where the guy got caught with a perfect shot, and he helped assist with the shot. You know, it's kind of like he ducked into the shot, almost like Plant against not Plant, almost like Billy Joe Saunders against Canelo, except for with Lubin, instead of getting his eye socket broken, he short circuited. You know, I remember that guy. I ain't seen him around a long time at PK Boxing. He said he used to say that Lubin got, what the word he said? He said he got vaporized by Jamel. You know, I used to think that was a funny statement, and it kind of like suited the way it went. But And shout out to that fella wherever he is, if he's still, if he's still listening to chats anywhere or whatever. But yeah, so I like Lubin, but I wouldn't want to see Danny Garcia fight Lubin. I think Lubin's been fighting too good a level of guys at 54 for a guy to just come in 54 and fight Lubin right away. And we wouldn't know what Danny Garcia's power looks like. Yeah, I'm gonna speak on that in just a second. But yeah, Danny Jacobs and in case I forget, Danny Jacobs and Andrade, I'm gonna speak on that in just a second. But for DSG, I think if he fought a guy like Brandon Adams, I'd like that. I'd tune in and watch it. But if he's bold enough to fight one of the top 5 guys, top 6, whatever, then I'm okay with that. I mean, honestly, I know this might sound crazy to y'all, but I'm not 100% convinced that Danny Garcia, of course, it is about how he acclimates to the weight, but I'm not 100% convinced that he couldn't give and I start thinking I forgot the damn guy's name. Y'all help me out in the chat. What's the old boy from Argentina who just fought Jamel Castano, Brian Castano? I wouldn't just say that Danny Garcia doesn't have a chance in hell against Castano. I could see DSG holding his own because of the way Castano fights, and I've seen Danny Garcia against those type of fighters, even though at a lower weight. If DSG translated, if his skills and ability in his power to an extent was on par or better than what it was at 47, which sometimes guys move up in weight and their power they're a little stronger because they're not draining themselves to make weight as much. And sometimes I don't pack punching power as they go up. But if I could see DSG and Brian Castano in a good fight. You know what I'm saying? I could see him in good fights with a lot of these guys that aren't the taller 154 pounders. You know what I'm saying? Like the guys that are, like 6 foot tall and 5'11", 5'10", you know what I'm saying? Those may be fights for him. I don't think Brian Castano is that tall. I think Brian Castano is like 5'9", 5'8", maybe, I could be wrong, but he seems like that's about his height. But I like DSG. I think he's an entertaining fight. DSG is another example of a guy that I'm not hung up on him losing fights to where like, man, I ain't watching that dude. All he does is lose. You know what I'm saying? I still like to tune in and watch Danny Garcia fight. I want to see Danny Garcia and Mikey fight for a while, and I think Mikey's team didn't like that fight. Trey X said, I'm out of my mind. Brian Castano put paws all on Danny Garcia. I'd like to see it. We always talk about what somebody gonna do. Then when they get in the ring and fight, we end up not seeing it. We end up sometimes being like, dang, that fight was better than what we thought it would be. All right. So I'm gonna get back to Wu's comment for just a second. He said, isn't it crazy how Danny Jacobs and Andre haven't fought? Nah, not to me. I never expected those guys to fight. I'm gonna tell you exactly why. And I'm gonna tell you why I think it's crazy too. Why I think the statement of why they didn't fight is crazy. But I don't think it's necessarily crazy that they didn't fight just because I didn't expect them to fight after hearing this. Danny Jacobs had been at 54 for basically his whole career. You think about way back when he lost to Pirog, that was a 54 fight. So he's been at 54. He had been at 54 his whole career. Andre got to 54, I don't know, time flies now, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. It's hard to gauge time for me because it's like, man, Monday turns into Friday for me just like that. So anyway, Danny Jacobs talked about their friendship, how close they were, and they share camps and things like that. And he, I heard him allude to this more than one time when people asked him about Andre. So once I started hearing him say that so much, I was like, okay, this fight ain't gonna happen. And then I heard Andre's father talk about it. And basically he was saying, he kind of made it seem like that Andre's open to fight anybody, but if they wouldn't press Jacob for a fight if that ain't what they want to do. All right. So then this is where, to me, why I thought it was funny for Jacob to be saying that, because if y'all remember, Derevchenko and Daniel Jacobs were stablemates, sparred lots of rounds together, shared the same trainer. And when those guys fought, I want to say it was for the vacant IBF belt. I think it was vacant. I don't think Jacob was a champion and he was the mandatory, but I could be wrong. I think they fought for the vacant belt because Canelo had got stripped. Because Triple G got stripped because Triple G went and fought Vanes Martirosyan instead of Derevchenko. So he got stripped. When Canelo popped dirty for clenbuterol. Let me make sure I put that in there. When Canelo popped dirty for clenbuterol and the GGG and Canelo fight fell apart and Triple G had to have an opponent. You had Demetrius Andrade raise his hand. You had his mandatory Derevchenko right there. And then he pulls up Vanes Martirosyan, who Andrade had already beat years ago, and who had never fought, who basically was a career 54-pounder. Triple G pulled him up for the fight and ended up stopping Vanes in 2 or 3 rounds or something. And he got caught a couple of times with some good shots from Vanes, but he stopped him. But the consequences of that was that IBF ended up stripping Triple G. So they let Jacobs and Derevchenko fight for that vacant belt. And basically Jacobs was able to keep Rozier as his trainer, and Derevchenko had to work with a new trainer for the fight. So of course they couldn't be trained by the same guy for the fight. So my point is, Jacobs had no problem fighting his stablemate who he had sparred with, maybe hundreds of rounds. But when it came to Andrade, he kind of backed off of that. He didn't show interest in fighting that fight. And I thought that in and of itself was crazy. Why not? That, but I saw the same thing with DLowe and Ward. I saw them guys avoid fighting each other in a tournament. Even though, you had a situation that happened with, DLowe, but I think ultimately one part that played in it was that DLowe and Ward didn't want to fight, and they actually made the comment. The comment was made that they had already vowed when they were amateurs that if they fight as a pro, it's going to be later in their career when they both been established and that it's going to be for big money. Of course, that never happened because DLowe's career never panned out to be what the expectation was. And I'm talking about Andre, not Anthony. But that's just my opinion on that. But and now it doesn't really it doesn't make sense to even talk about them fighting. No disrespect to you, Woo. I'm saying I see a lot of people talking about, like, now people be throwing up in there. They be saying Andrade talking about fighting all these other guys. Why don't he fight Jacobs? Well, right now, Jacobs is trying to fight at 175 pounds. Andrade is still at 160, trying to get unification bouts, trying to fight, his mandatory to keep his belt and such. So, basically, essentially, these guys at the point they're separated by 2 weight classes. So I don't think we'll ever get a Daniel Jacobs versus an Andrade fight, but I do think there were opportunities for that fight to be made. And I just think ultimately, if you ask which side, in my opinion, I think Jacobs' side disliked the fight more than Andrade's side, but I don't think Andrade's side was clamoring for the fight either. And I think, honestly, it would have done both of their careers some good had they had that fight. All right, back to the comments. Vaporize. Yeah, that's what he said, Ronald Finkley. Eric R. Salute, fam. 154 is slower, more like Danny's pace, but I think the top is going to give him the same problem Errol did. Yeah, Errol's different, man. Errol's a different animal. If you look at them top, I know it's a different division, but if you look at them top guys and how they fight, and you look at how Errol Spence Jr. fights and his stature and his fluidity and the way he fights, it's a little bit different than those guys. Not all of them, you know what I'm saying, but I could see him having some success, but it's gonna be against certain guys. I I heard somebody talk about him fighting that young kid, Sebastian Fundora. Man, I think that'll be a horrible fight for Danny Garcia. I think that kid throws way too many punches for Danny. Danny gets flat-footed and likes to sit in the pocket and wait for opportunities to throw. And man, I can see Fundora just running off like 60 punches while Danny Garcia is still trying to pick a spot to throw a punch in. Danny probably needs straight at Harrison or J-Rock. I think Harrison would completely embarrass. Now, don't get me wrong. Harrison, who fought in his last fight, now, if he, I know he looked different without his father in his corner, but if he could get back to form, I think Harrison is a horrible fight for DSG. Harrison is a boxer, man. Harrison is a real boxer. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be a horrible fight for Danny. Needs to go. I mean, okay. Trey said, I'll take that 185 Castano with 2 wins over Errol Spence Jr. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I thought he beat Jamal Charlo too. But I just think, you know what I'm saying, I think Danny could be in a good fight with him, but I could be totally wrong, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Danny, I think Danny's a solid fight. I don't think he's a slouch. I like Danny, he just needs to let his hands go. Yeah, Mark Blake, I'm glad you said that. You know, if we're talking about a fighter that's in his 30s and we're saying he needs to let his hands go, I don't think it's going to happen. I think if he was a guy who used to let his hands go a lot and then he stopped, and this is where he is right now, it's not going to change. I think if he's a guy who never really let his hands go a whole lot, he's not going to start at 30-some years old. So I think what we see is what we get with Danny Garcia. It's just a matter of him being matched up with the right guys and having the right game plan to execute against those guys and seeing how things shake out for him. I definitely don't think, like I said, I don't see him being able to come there and just take over the division or be, you know what I'm saying, a linchpin in the division. I think he'd come there and be like a middle of the road, maybe top tier guy, and maybe it's a short run until he gets to the very top. Depends on how quick he got to the very top. And, and like I said, Castano is at the very top right now, Castano and Jamil. So if he got to a fight with one of them and it goes terribly wrong for him, then what is he going to do? Go to 160 or say, no, he go back down to 147, or he hangs it up. So I don't know. The thing is, we've been hearing about Danny Garcia talking about going to 154 ever since the Errol fight, maybe even a little bit before the fight, to be honest. And we haven't seen anything in print. We haven't seen anything come up that says he's going to do that he's going to do anything. So I mean, I see him make videos and stuff. I think he makes funny videos and cool little skits and things like that. But I honestly don't know, you know what I'm saying, how many more fights he actually has in him in terms of how many more fights he wants to have. Maybe maybe he has in his mind that he's only going, he's going to try to make a run with a few more fights and see how they pan out and then revisit it from there. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even go to 154 and he ends up fighting a guy like Josecito Lopez at 147. Which, honestly, to me, isn't a bad fight. You know what I'm saying? Because you got the Mexican-Puerto Rico thing, even though Danny's a Puerto Rican-American. But he's, you know what I'm saying? And I think, I actually think, what's the name, is a Mexican-American. Riverside Rocky. So, but still, I mean, I think from how they match up, I mean, that could be a really good fight. Both guys have been on the shelf for a while, so I like to see either guy in a fight with anybody. To be honest, I like watching both guys fight. So a fight with them versus each other, I definitely would tune in without hesitation. So you know what I'm saying. I definitely am a fan. I definitely am a fan of both guys. So, but it's just me, spitballing, trying to think of guys that I like to see Danny Garcia. You know what I'm saying? I like to see Danny Garcia in with that I think would be a good matchup. But, like I said, that's if he chooses to stay at 160. I mean, excuse me, 147. Trying to multitask. Sorry about that. So let's see. Wu 36 says, seems like there's been more bobbing and weaving outside the ring these days. Many fights could have been made in these last 5 years, but politics has become the main subject of this era. Yeah, so before I go, I'm gonna stop right there for a minute. Yeah, man, that's kind of back to what I was talking about when I was talking about the power players, the brokers, the stakeholders in boxing need to give more back to boxing instead of just taking. All of this political nonsense and all of this Cold War and all this side of the street, all that stuff takes away from boxing. All that stuff takes away from the fans. You know, I hear guys all the time talking about where a fighter needs to be signed at, what promotional company they need to be with, who they need to get away from, what network they need to get aligned with, they need to get off this app and all of this stuff. But the reality is that it's a sad state for us to be in, that we as boxing fans accept that as an excuse for why we're not getting the fight we want to see. We should not be in a place where we accept that fights don't happen just because guys are fighting with one promotional outfit, or guys are fighting with another promotional outfit, or guys fighting out of a stable that has 200-some fighters like PBC, and that their fighters can't go somewhere else and fight when we've seen them go other places and fight. And I understand network deals, and I understand you got certain commitments and things like that. But honestly, man, it's all about, if you think about if you're doing a deal, and I'm talking about just as a person doing some type of business. Me personally, I would rather have 50% of something, or 40% of something, or 30% of something than 100% of nothing. So to me, I think these entities in boxing need to work together more to bring us fights. They need to stop stalling out each other's fighters in hopes that fighter would come sign with them if they don't give them fights or they don't give them opportunities, and just work together, you know, because ultimately everybody doesn't need to be signed with the same promoter or same outfit or whatever. Because once you get that, these fighters may find out that that's not what they really want. You know what I'm saying? Because competition in business is a good thing. It keeps you honest. That's just like for me, I do deals, you know what I'm saying, you know, every day. So I may have a company that I'm doing business with consistently for certain products. And it's like, man, they really treat us good. We like this. Our company likes what we get from them. But then at the same time, every once in a while, I cut them off and start throwing that bone to other companies, because I want to keep them honest. I want to make sure that they're keeping their pricing. They're being held to a certain standard on price negotiations and things like that, and on time deliveries, and on being able to get us out of a crunch if we're in a situation where we need something in a hurry, that they're gonna be like, yeah, let's take care of this for them, because they can go to somebody else. But if you just constantly got all your eggs in one basket, you come to find out that a monopoly isn't in a good situation. So I think competition in the sport of boxing is great. I'll speak on one company in particular. I think Top Rank, once Bob Arum is no longer at the table, I think Top the Buff could take Top Rank, you know what I'm saying, in a different direction. Like right now, there's a lot I don't like about the way that company does business. I'll just say that. But Top Rank isn't the only problem in the sport of boxing, not by far. So, but like I said, just getting back to that, like I said, like they got to get back to giving to the sport of boxing just as much as they're taking from the sport of boxing, and making sure that they're thinking about what's in the best interest of the fans who actually infuse the sport of boxing with money, you know, with you know what I'm saying, with notoriety and with our viewership and with our pay-per-view dollars, or our you know what I'm saying, our videos, our comments, our posts that we put out there that make people think about boxing who may not be thinking about boxing on a Saturday. They're thinking about college football. So, you know, things like that. You know, tonight's card is going to be compete with an MMA card. And from what I understand, it's a good MMA card. So let's see, does Canelo wait until 1 a.m. to come out and make his ring walk like they done when Kovalev and Canelo fought? You know, when they had an MMA card. You know what I'm saying? They're in the locker room sleep. You know, so when you see that, that tells you that boxing is losing. So now we got the same fighter fighting actually, I think Caleb Plant has less notoriety than Kovalev did. So we're in the same situation, and an MMA fight is going on at the same time. Now, coincidentally, this time the two MMA fighters are not as huge as the MMA fight that was going on that night. I may be wrong, but it seems like on that particular night, what's the boy's name from Ireland? Conor McGregor might have been fighting Khabib, or Conor McGregor was fighting somebody that night. So that's maybe he's a bigger star than these guys that are fighting tonight. I don't know. But my point is, if we see boxing take a backseat to MMA again, where they wait until the MMA event's over to start the main event, especially with this sucky undercard they got, that says a lot about the state of boxing, especially when PBC is paying Canelo the kind of money they're paying him and paying Plant the kind of money they're paying them to get this fight off. They may absolutely wait, because they may want to wait and try to get as many viewers as possible to click that pay-per-view buy button. Because think about it, that was on the zone when Canelo was fighting Kovalev, and they done the same thing, and all they were trying to do was get subscribers. You know, they were trying to get subscribers at $10 a click or whatever it was, $20 a click maybe. Whereas these guys are trying to get pay-per-view buys at $79, $80, whatever it is for the pay-per-view. So we may see a repeat of the same thing. I don't know. And maybe that's the best thing for them to do. But like I said, that says a lot about the state of boxing. All right. Wu 36 says Swift take his ass back down to 140, keep away from 54. Yeah, I don't know how that dude to look at 40 now, man. He's been at 47 for a while. And, you know, even before he went to 47, he had a fight. You know, he fought Lamont at 144. You know, you think about it, man. I don't know exactly how old Danny Garcia is off the top of my head, but I didn't think him and Lamont were that much separated in age. Lamont's been out of sport like 3 years. And those guys fought, you know, each other like, shit, 5, 6 years ago, maybe longer. And, you know, so, I mean, I know Lamont wasn't that old, but, I mean, Danny Garcia has some ring wear on him. You know, I don't know that going back down to 140 with all that ring wear and, you know what I'm saying, and tough, grueling fights at 140. I mean, Danny Garcia had tough fights against Porter, tough fights against Thurman, tough fight against Porter, Thurman, and Spence. I'm trying to think, was there any tough fights that he won? Because I don't think the Robert Guerrero fight was particularly tough. I don't think the Granado's fight was tough. I don't think the fight against the dude that bit him was tough. What's his name? The Ukrainian that, you know, is a big Mexican. What's his name? A lot of them forgot the guy's name. The guy Regis Prograis was, I think Regis Prograis stopped him not long ago. Or he was supposed to fight him and he pulled out. Whatever the guy's name is. Anyway, the dude that bit Danny Garcia, which always has the colorful hair. That fight wasn't particularly tough. I'm trying to think. I got my other phone right here. Let me look and see. I'm trying to think who all Danny Garcia fought at 147, and did he win any fights that were tough? You know, I think he fought. Did he fight Bam Bam Rios at one point? Was that at 147 or was that at 140? Let's see. DSG. Wow, that's a good looking car. So yeah, Danny Garcia's 3 losses are the fights I just mentioned: Spence, Porter, and Thurman. He beat Brandon Rios. He stopped Brandon Rios in the 9th round. I don't think that fight was particularly tough. I felt like Danny Garcia was just getting out on Rios. So he fought Paulinho. Okay, so I'm gonna do Danny Garcia's welterweight fight. That was him and Lamont were both champions. They fought at 144 or something like that. 143. It was 143 catch weight. But essentially that was a welterweight fight because it was above junior welterweight limit. He beat Lamont in a majority draw. I felt like Lamont won the fight, but oh well. Paulie Malignaggi, he stopped in the 9th round. That wasn't a tough fight. Lamont was honestly, if you count Lamont as a welterweight fight, that was the only tough welterweight fight I feel like he won. You know, and I mean that he won on paper, but I didn't feel like he won the fight. But he got beat up in that fight too. You got Robert Guerrero. That wasn't really a tough fight. He won a UD. Samuel Vargas, he stopped in the 7th. Keith Thurman, he lost. Brandon Rios, he stopped in the 9th. Sean Porter, he lost. Adrian Granados, he stopped in the 7th. That fight wasn't close. Red Cash is the guy that beat him. I couldn't remember his name. So he beat Red Cash in the score for 117, 111 2 times and 118, 110. And then he went out and fought Spence and he lost that fight wide. He got beat up in that one. So we talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you count the Lamont Peterson fight, which was in 2015, so that was over 6 years ago. The Lamont Peterson fight was his first fight at above 140. So he's been fighting at welterweight since April 11th of 2015. I think him going back down to 140 would be tough. Oh, and let me correct myself. He actually fought the Rod Salka fight. He actually weighed in at 141 3/4 for Rod Salka. So apparently he was bursting out of the seams at 140. If he fought Rod Salka, who he pulled up in weight, they had a catch weight at 142. So he had 2 catch weight fights. So basically he had 2 fights over 140. So I count those as welterweight fights. So essentially he's been fighting at welterweight since August of 2014 when he fought Rod Salka. So if you look at that, man, that's over 7 years that man has been fighting at welterweight. I don't think he can go back down to 40. So it's either get it in gear at 147, get in where you fit in at 147, or go up to 154 and get in where you fit in. I don't think going back down to 140 gonna work for him. All right, man. Hey, salute, y'all. All right, y'all. The chat done got stale. Ain't nobody saying nothing. I'm gonna take that as y'all got other things to do. Y'all tired of hearing me talk, which is cool. I got stuff to do too. I got some yard work to do. And I'll try to catch up with y'all later on, man. I appreciate y'all stopping by. I appreciate y'all giving me your ear, lending me your time. Expert Genius, salute. Lending me your time and you know what I'm saying, and just tuning in and giving me giving me a chat to go back and forth with, because like I said, it's you know what I'm saying, I get tired of just putting out videos and not really having that interaction with other boxing fans. You know what I'm saying? So I really, really, truly, genuinely appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope that y'all enjoyed the content, enjoyed the chat. Hopefully when I get an opportunity to do another live stream, y'all will tune in and come through and support the channel. And you know what I'm saying? Hey, y'all share the video if y'all don't mind. Share all my videos when y'all click on them. Hit the like button for me. You know what I'm saying? Interact with me in the comment section. Y'all know I always correspond and dialogue back and forth with the comment section in my chat as well as in my videos. So man, I'll catch y'all, man. Until next time, y'all be easy, y'all be safe out there, stay blessed. Peace.